I do have to say I have a lot of things in common with a lot of people that are running that have already spoke on this call, but I will have to point out that I do feel some sort of way about being introduced as just an activist that happens to also be running for office. I have actually affected policy and written policy. I have actually built coalitions and founded 2 nonprofits here in Seattle, actually now 3. So I share a lot of resume issues and like titles on my resume as executive director and founder of multiple nonprofits from lived experience and coming from a place of being one of the impacted individuals in my district as well as my state that wasn't receiving any of the care that the institutions above us, including our governing bodies, could have provided. So I do really want to note that first and foremost. But currently I'm running for the 43rd Legislative District in Washington State for the House of Representatives against the longest sitting representative and former Speaker of the House, Representative Frank Chop of the Democratic Party. So that also points out the difference between me and the other people that are on this call that have talked about their position. I am actually running as an independent with the Seattle People's Party, because room wasn't made in the Democratic Party in the 43rd Legislative District for me or anyone like me in order to protect the power of Frank Chop, who they've been backing for 25 years, a quarter of a century since I was 8 years old. So when I say I really want you to know more than the fact that I'm an activist, I am someone that has survived his reign. Just like everyone else in the state, because he was Speaker of the House for everyone in the state for the last 20 years. And that deserves a note. And I'm noting that not just for myself, but everyone else in this district and state that has said, why aren't we able, with this will, this political will of the community, to change our regressive tax system if we have such progressive leadership and a majority and supermajority in the House? It was a good question to ask. And I asked why as well. My response to everyone's question was, you're right. What can we do about it? And the answer was me running against him. So like everyone else, I have a lot of reasons from the community asking me to step up, to be doing it, even though it's extremely uncomfortable, especially for someone who is at the edge of precarity financially and physically. It's also for my own survival, because I'm a member of a lot of the communities, including the disabled community, the criminalized and stigmatized communities of drug users and sex workers and people experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity, that really don't have any options other than to try and fight and advocate for themselves every day. And that shouldn't be overlooked as just being an activist or an advocate just because you are fighting for your own survival and therefore the survival of a very large portion of the community that currently under COVID and the pandemic and the economic crisis that we are experiencing because of it may end up having to either commit quote unquote crimes of poverty to survive, whether that be sex work or using drugs to self-medicate, or maybe stealing or being inappropriate in the sense of property because you don't have any other choice. Or the fact that we're on the edge of millions of people potentially being evicted. People that have never faced homelessness at all are facing that down once the eviction moratorium expires at the end of this year. So if we want to gloss over the fact that I am an activist and not just an impacted individual, not previously, currently, then we have a long way to go to change culture in this country. Because just like Liz Berry was saying earlier, if you think you're not qualified to run, you're wrong. Everyone should be qualified to run. We should all have a say in what legislation dictates what we have access to at the behest of our government. We should all have a say in what happens to us. We should all have a say in where our money goes when we pay taxes. So yes, I'm an activist. But so are all of you. And so is everyone that decides to cast their vote on November 3rd. So I would really appreciate it if anyone looked into my platform, ShereaForState.com, at ShereaForState on all social media. And, even if I can't pay my rent, my entire staff deserves to. So please donate what you can. I really appreciate it, and thank you for having me.